So for the past month or so, I have been working on quite a large intarsia project, which is my anatomy sweater. I planned to have this done by Halloween. We're now obviously past Halloween and it's not finished, but I've had quite a few questions about what it is and how I'm doing it. So I thought it'd be good to do a whole video about my whole process. I've done the front and half of the back now, so I'm not quite finished. So I thought I'll show you what I've done so far and I can tell you a little bit about the techniques I've used and the inspiration for the whole project. And then you can work with me to finish off the back, do the arms and do the final finishing details. So let's get into it. So let's talk about how I'm doing it. I'm using DK weight yarn. This is 100% Shetland wool yarn. The needle size I'm using is the 3.75 needle. It is a circular. I think it's a 60 centimeter circular. Might be 80, but I'm knitting it flat. I just prefer to work on a circular needle. It's just a lot more comfortable for my hands. So as I said, the yarn is 100% Shetland wool. It is Jamieson's of Shetland double knitting yarn, not to be confused with Jamieson and Smith. I don't actually know if the two are linked. I have tried to have an initial Google search just to say, are they linked at all? I can't really see anything about it, but to be fair, full disclosure, I didn't particularly deep dive that. I know Jamieson Smith's is a younger brand. Jamieson's of Shetland, which as I said is what I have, is an older brand, but it is their double knitting yarn and it is, yeah, 100% Shetland wool. So this is a new one for me. I've never used it before. I actually, funnily enough, have used Jamieson and Smith before, but I never used Jamieson's of Shetland. I don't know how many times I could say Jamieson's in like a 5-minute period. I love it so far. So I have super sensitive skin. Not gonna lie, this is itchy. Let's just put it out there. This is itchy. It's also not particularly cheap. So on a recent video I did, I was talking about like affordable yarns, whatever. Somebody had commented saying that they thought that Jamieson's had super reasonably priced yarn. It's a difficult one because I don't think that this is overpriced. I think it's fairly priced for what it is, which is super high quality yarn. And for me, obviously living in the UK, it's also local yarn and they have the most gorgeous range of colors. So I think it's reasonably priced for what it is. It's definitely not overpriced. That said, is it accessible? Probably not. For this jumper, and this is kind of an oversized jumper on me, it's probably more like a men's medium kind of size it's going to be. I've probably spent about £110 on the yarn for it. Remains to be seen if I'm going to use it all or if I'll in fact need more, but I suspect that's probably about right. So if you're a bit smaller than me or if you're making a smaller jumper, maybe it'll be less than 100. The other way, obviously, if you're making a larger jumper, it'll obviously be more than that. Well, it's definitely a special treat yarn for me, at least. With that said, it is stunning. So there's a reason why I chose this yarn, because I really agonized over what type of yarn to use. I knew I wanted to do something in DK, and that was really all that I knew. DK, and I wanted it to be wool. Let me just show you some of the colors that I've got for this. This one is called Leprechaun. This is the main color I'm using. It's called Esit. It's like this beige, kind of cool toned beige. Bear in mind that I'm currently working the back piece now, and this is it. I mean, it's just nice. It's got like slightly different shades in it, some darker, some lighter. It's just so rustic. We love it. This deep red shade called Cardinal. This super fleshy pink called Salmon. And finally, this sort of mid, kind of light red called Spice. So yeah, those are my colors. They have so many gorgeous colors, and so many colors unfortunately didn't obviously fit the color scale of what I was doing, so I couldn't use them, but like the blues, the purples, like cannot recommend highly enough. So let's talk about progress then. So I'm knitting this, as I said, I'm knitting this flat and I'm knitting it in separate parts. So I'm knitting front, back, 2 arms, and then I'll sew it all together and then add the collar. I finished the front piece and I am halfway through the back piece. And this so far has been, I think I started at like the end of September. So this has been about a month's worth of knitting, and I've obviously got both sleeves to go as well. It's actually a shame that I didn't start earlier because I would have liked to take you through the process and be doing the front. But what we'll do, because obviously that's the more complicated part, being fully intarsia. If you're interested in learning more about intarsia, I recently did a video which was a review of an intarsia sweater I did 2 years ago on Halloween called The Most Disastrous Sweater I Ever Knit. And it truly was. And in that video, it contains a little bit about how I approach intarsia and things that I've learned through intarsia. I am planning to do a whole separate tutorial for intarsia, but what I'll do is I will show you the back of my front. I'll show you the front piece that I've worked on, and I'll talk about how I did all the intarsia bits for that. So we can see the front here that I've been working with. That is the motif. It's got this little bit of extras on the shoulder, both of them. And then at the bottom, obviously, it's just got this little twisted rib cuff which is quite nice. Let's have a look at the back. So, I mean, this is just the reality of working in intarsia. I actually used to really dislike intarsia, I think because I used to think you had to do it with like bobbins and you had to keep everything super neat at the back. And the trick to intarsia is that you don't. Like the trick is that it's going to be a mess. And I think it was Kath Fassett who said you just need to pull from the tangle. And that is what I do. So actually it doesn't even look that bad now because obviously a lot of these ends I have cut. But yeah, each one is just like a separate piece of color. Not to over-explain intarsia to you. You can see obviously there's lots of different bits of color. When that's gonna be woven in, which I'll do at some point, that's actually gonna be pretty neat. When it's done properly, I mean, this is just what you get. You get these like nice tight edges. It's nice and neat there. So it should look not quite as neat as the front, but like closely as neat to the front as it is on the back. And it's another one I think people always say, oh, intarsia is such a headache. I don't know how you do it, but actually once you can embrace the messiness of it, like it's really not that bad. It's really fun, I really like it. I'm just sort of playing it by ear with this one. I think there's like no real limit to what we can do. And I wonder once it's all blocked and stuff like that, whether maybe some extra details would be fun. Yeah, so that is the front. Supposedly the more complicated part of it. Although for me, I always find like these color work fronts and stuff is actually the best bit because I enjoy it the most, and it's always like the stockinette that I've got to do. So I'm currently working on the back piece, which is just plain stockinette, almost at the point where I'm decreasing for the arms, and obviously then it will carry on stockinette, but at least the rows will be slightly shorter, which is a relief. So let's get to it. So we're making our way through the endless stockinette back. I mean, it's not fully stockinette because I've got this little motif on the side, but I hate it so much. It's just so bloody boring. Like so many people said that to me about the front. They're like, I don't know how you can deal with all that intarsia, it drives me mad. I'm like, no, the intarsia is actually what keeps me knitting. Stockinette, like, honestly, you know people who just like knit stockinette jumper after stockinette jumper and they say, oh, I love it, mindless knits. I don't do mindless knits, like, it just makes me zone out. I think I've just got too much like energy. I just need my mind to be occupied by things. I should carry on, shouldn't I? Okay, update. I have now finished the back piece and I've seamed it together with the front piece. I'm just binding off those stitches together. So I kept the stitches on the needle for either shoulder of either side and then just seamed those together. So I started on the sleeve. I chose to pick up the stitches for the sleeve. It desperately wants to be blocked out, so we'll have to see how that goes. It's not looking, it's kind of got this like weird effect at the moment, but I'm hoping that's going to block out. I've now run out of beige, so while I'm waiting for that to arrive, I'm going to start work on the neck. So it's going to be this colour, which I've shown before. It's called Leprechaun. It's the most gorgeous shade. It's my favourite of all the colours that I'm using. So it's going to be a single twisted rib and it's going to be like a folded over collar. So yeah, should be pretty nice, pretty loose, nothing too crazy. I am very conscious though, because this yarn is quite coarse yarn. I don't want it to be obviously too high on the neck because I know that that is just going to give me a rash. Although it's just going to have to be one of those that I wear with an underlayer. So it just is what it is. But yeah, so let's start on the neck. As promised, we've started the cuff. I'm doing it in a corrugated rib or a twisted rib, whatever you want to call it, which matches the bottom. Now at this stage, obviously I've tried on my jumper now that I've stitched it all together. And honestly, I'm slightly annoyed at the length I've done this bottom rib because it's like a longer rib at the bottom, right? But it's somewhere between being, it either should have been, I think, shorter or longer. And actually, realistically, if I'm completely honest with myself, it should have been longer. It just sort of folds in on itself now, which is fine because I'll probably just tuck the bottom under anyway. Now, I know why I didn't do it longer because ribbing is the most boring type of knitting that there is. Learnt my lesson, so I think I need to do about double this length for the top as well. So it'll be a really nice folded over cuff. But if I dare say so myself, the manner in which I have picked up stitches around the collar is exemplary. I mean, it's just very smooth. I'm just really loving that contrast. I think it looks really nice. I'm really excited for this jumper. So another double the rib that we've got, then we can cast off, sew it to the inside so we've got a lovely fold off collar. Hopefully by then my beige yarn will have arrived so I can then crack on with the rest of the sleeve. But anyway, let's get to it. So I've done the collar now. I just think it gives it such a nice little pop. Obviously, you've already seen all that. I've started on the sleeve. I did like almost half the sleeve and then I had to frog it because I realized I was doing my decreases all wrong and I was going to have to suddenly decrease loads towards the bottom. These are the issues with self-drafting patterns, and the issues with someone who has self-drafted patterns so many times. I should not still be making these mistakes, but yet I am, because that's just me. But yeah, how cute is that? So this is a different color. I believe it's called Spice, and it's sort of, there's, you know, you can see it there with the red, and then this brown color, which I forget what it's called, but it's very pretty. And then I'm going to be bringing in more of that darker red into the sleeve. So it's going good. It's now the middle of November, and I think I said previously, I was like, I won't be done for Halloween, but I'll be done in the middle of November. Well, I'm halfway down the sleeve. It's not even the middle of November, it's like nearly the end of November. So let's say we'll be done by Christmas. Okay, let's say we'll be done by Christmas, because you know what, with that little pop of green, this little Grinch shade of green, it's giving a little Christmas, isn't it? So I will be wearing this on Christmas Day, to my family's great dismay, I'm sure. So I've done the first sleeve. So it's quite cute. So I've used this other red colour, which actually when I first started with it, I was like, oh, I don't know if I like it. Maybe I should just stop with the red. But now I've got it all together and bringing in this red again for the bottom. I just really like it. So I've started the other sleeve now. I don't know how long it's going to take me now, but we've been at this since the beginning of October. So we've been at it for about 2 months now, which is a long time. But yeah, it's cute though. I'm pretty impressed with how it's going. One more sleeve and then we're done. And the joy of actually having approached it this way is it's not like you have to do the sleeve and then you got to do like the collar, because obviously I did the collar first. That's quite nice to not have to do that, because I feel like that's always the last detail that you think isn't going to take very long, and then you end up like slogging away for ages on the collar. We're getting somewhere. We're getting somewhere. Slowly, but we're getting somewhere. So I'm just finishing up the cuff now of the second sleeve. We're so nearly there. And the jumper's complete. This has literally just come off the needles just now, so I've got lots of little ends hanging around. I've got an atrocious amount of ends to sew in. It needs to be blocked. That's for another day. I won't be including that in this video. So if you want to see the final result, then head over to my Instagram, because it will be there, not immediately once this video is published, but in due course. I really love it. So obviously, I think I mentioned before there's some puckering in the sleeves sort of there, because I picked up the stitches rather than seamed it. I'm going to see how that does in blocking. I mean, actually it doesn't look so bad now that I've got the whole sleeve and it's kind of weighing it down, and you know, you can just put it on your wrist anyway. So yeah, there's that sort of thing. But I think overall it fits quite nicely. The armholes I know are a little bit too short. Like when I was doing the pattern, obviously didn't realize when I was making the pattern, but when I actually got to that point, I was like, really, I want the armhole to probably be about down there. But it was kind of like right in the pit of my armpit, but it is oversized. So for me, it's still very comfortable, but I just know it's like disproportionate to the jumper. Just being completely transparent about the things that I've done wrong. But I'm loving the sleeves. You know, when I started with this other red, I actually started to get a bit of regret, and I was like, I should have just done everything in the dark red. But actually, I quite like the juxtaposition. I was initially just going to have this all the way down the cuff, but then I thought actually I wanted to bring more of that dark red back to the bottom there. So that's what I did. And then I was thinking I might do a different thing for this sleeve, but actually I just loved how the first sleeve came out. So I decided to do exactly the same for the second sleeve. But yeah, the back obviously is plain. I initially was going to do something a little bit more detailed on the back, but then I was like, this already took me so much longer than I thought it would. Like we wouldn't be anywhere near finished if I had another intarsia thing on the back. I'm quite looking forward to weaving my ends in. And I always find this, like when I post about one of my sort of intarsia pieces or even Farewell pieces, a lot of people will sort of joke about, oh, well, I just cut the ends off, or I just do this or that with the ends. But actually, I think an intarsia project is not completely finished until the ends are woven in, because a lot of it right now, because the ends aren't quite fixed at the back, there's like little holes and stuff, which once I've weaved it in will look even better. So actually that's like quite a therapeutic thing for me to like actually just weave all the ends in and make sure that it's all looking nice and neat, because there are some little holes here and there. But yeah, I think it's really cool. How often will I get to wear it? I don't really know. This is my problem with all my knits. I like make something that I think is going to be really cool, and it always is. A little bit like sheepish about actually wearing it in public, but no, I think this is pretty cool. I'm pretty impressed with me. Now, this is rustic yarn, okay? And I've got sensitive skin, and I've spoken about that before. Is this itchy? Yes, I've been wearing this for about maybe 20 minutes now, and I can already feel it like biting my neck, which is absolutely fine. It's what we always expected. I love it. It's such a gorgeous yarn. Every single color I use, I absolutely loved. But at the same time, yeah, it's not great for sensitive skin, I don't think, which is fine. I'm just going to have to wear like a thermal underneath just to sort of block my neck. Just otherwise it's going to get really rashy. Most of all, I'm super impressed of the sizing of the arms. I mean, look at that sleeve. I'm not somebody who tries on my sleeves. And actually I've had many, many occasions is where the sleeve is just like looking absolutely comical at the end. But this one, I was putting it on and making sure it was the right length for me. And look at that. I mean, now we have to see what happens in blocking. One thing I'm a bit worried about is this really dark red color, really, really rich. I am worried, only just because of the richness of the color, that it might bleed a bit onto the beige. Let's see if that actually will happen. I'm hoping that it won't. I'm sure that it won't. I'm not gonna block it for ages. I think I'm just gonna do like a wet it through and then we'll get it out, because often I've done that before. When you leave it sitting in the water and it's because the red goes into the water, then the water goes into your light pieces, and that's kind of like ruined other knits in the past. So I'm just gonna be really, really careful about that. And I'm just hoping that it's not gonna like suddenly like stretch all the way out in blocking. We can only hope. So yeah, I'm well happy with it, but let's have a look at the inside. Here she is. Lots of loose ends to tie in. But as I said, that's all part of the process for me. I don't mind doing that. And in fact, I am looking forward to seeing it once the ends are all woven in, because it will take out all those little holes and I think it will look really nice. Sleeves as well. We've just got a few ends to weave in there. I mean, how fun is that? I actually love the checkerboard. And obviously I'll post a picture of the innards all weaved in once they're done, because I love a bit of that. I love to see like, what does the right side look like, what's the wrong side look like? And again, they're just a couple of ends to weave in. So yeah, overall, pretty happy. And obviously because I did plain on the back, sweet nothing to weave it on the back, just to sort of join up a few ends and bits like that. I just love it. I'm really happy with how it went, actually. I hope this video was useful to you, or interesting at least. I don't usually do these really long-term videos. I don't know how many weeks I filmed this over, but hopefully it sort of gave you a bit of insight into the life cycle of a sweater like this. Do you know what? I wasn't lying when I said this is itchy yarn, because my neck is already itching. But I hope that it was interesting anyway, because obviously I know that I missed off the first bit and kind of the last bit as well, because I'm going to go away and I'm going to weave the ends in and I'm going to block it. So if you want to see the final result, then please have a look at my Instagram. That will be out very soon. Or if you're watching this, you know, weeks after I posted it, then that will be out now, provided it didn't all get messed up in the blocking stage. We'll have to obviously see. That's the joy of knitting. You never know. Is all of my hard work going to be for waste? Let's just find out. Let's just roll the dice. If you've got any thoughts on my project, if you're undertaking a similar project, or just any kind of self-drafted sweater at all, I'd love to hear about it. And I hope to see you soon.